Good morning, everyone. I'm Louw Prinsloo. I'm a teacher at Vigard Park High School. I'm going to discuss with you the memo on the Physical Science Paper 1. And I think we are all ready to start. So let us start with the multiple choice questions, just a referral to question 1.8. Right. In section A, question 1, there's only one comment that I have, and that is on question 1.8. Unfortunately, you will see on the question paper both B and D is the same. So the correct answer was B, but unfortunately this wasn't changed to bigger S, so both B and D must be accepted as possible answers. So just correct that on the memo you have in front of you. Right. Then we move to question 2. Question 2 is a question on Newton's second law, and it's a question about two blocks, a 5 kilogram, 3 kilogram block connected by a light string. The 5 kilogram block experienced a frictional force of 8 Newton and also a tension, this tension here, and then the 3 kilogram block also experienced the force due to the tension in the rope and also a frictional force, and they tell you in the question that the coefficient of kinetic friction is equal to 0.15, and then also the component of the weight of the block will be a third force acting in this direction. Right. First question, define the term frictional force. Frictional force, you know, is a force that opposes the motion. So 1 mark for the first part stating that it opposes a force that opposes motion, and then the second mark for the fact that it acts parallel to the surface. So 2 marks for that definition, kind of. Question 2.2, draw a labeled free body diagram to indicate all the forces acting on the 3 kilogram block. So as I've indicated here, there's 3 forces, and you are going to indicate the weight only. Remember, if you want to indicate the components, you either indicate the components or the vector itself. So if you indicate it like this, I've indicated here, you will lose 1 mark. So please, either the weight itself or the components. But let's look at the memo. In the memo is indicated here that the force due to the tension in the rope, the frictional force, there's the possibilities of the labels, and then the force of gravitation with the possible accepted labels. Right, then to the calculations. Calculate the magnitude of the frictional force acting between the 3 kilogram block and the surface of the inclined plane. Right, and because it's an inclined plane, you will know that the normal force is equal to this force perpendicular to the surface area. So therefore you must calculate that component, that perpendicular component, to get the normal force. The formula, 1 mark for the formula, UK times F normal, and then it's 0.15, and then the component is 3 times 9.8 cos 30. A watermark for this whole statement. I know it is sometimes in a paper, you know, you are doing a lot of work, maybe sometimes for 1 mark. But we only have 150 marks to allocate in a paper, so I think you will find this. You will find this in every paper, that maybe comparing to the past, that you maybe must write down a lot more information for 1 mark than maybe previously. So it's 1 mark for this substitution, and then 1 mark for the answer of 3.82. The next question then is the question that you expected to get is calculate the magnitude of the tension in the string. So you must calculate T. And therefore, you must make use of two formulas, two equations for each block. The first mark is on the basic formula for Newton's second law, so 1 mark there. Then we have allocated the marks as such. 1 mark for the equation for the forces acting according to Newton's law, second law, on the 5 kilogram block. So it's the tension, and then minus the 8. So you will see that we have chosen the direction to the right as positive, because the frictional force is then negative, equals 5a, 1 mark for the statement for the 5 kilogram block. And then we have allocated 2 marks for the statement on the 3 kilogram blocks, because there's more forces acting on the block. So it is minus t, minus 3,82, and then the component parallel to the surface, 3 times 9.8 sin 30. 1 mark for those 3 forces, the indication of that, and then 1 mark to benefit the learner, 1 mark maybe for the 3a. So I think every learner will get at least that mark. And then you substitute equation 2 into equation 1, and then you will calculate a as 0,36. Unfortunately, no marks on the calculation of the acceleration, and then only a mark for the substitution and the answer. But remember, say for instance a learner has calculated this wrongly. He has got an answer of 0,48 or whatever, and he substitute that value in there. Then he will at least get the mark for the substitution, not for the answer, because then his answer will be wrong, but for substituting that value into a correct statement. It's important, into a correct statement, into equation 1 or 2, doesn't matter. Then he will get a mark at least for that substitution, although he has mistakenly make a mistake in calculating A. So in total 6 marks for this question. Right, moving on to question 3. Question 3 is on vertical projectile motion. There's 2 balls that are thrown vertical upwards and downwards respectively. Ball A, 12 meters per second downwards, and ball B, 30 meters per second upwards. And then they pass each other at this time of 2,135 seconds. Right, the first question is to indicate the direction of the acceleration while ball B is moving upwards. And you will know that the acceleration due to gravity is always downwards. So the answer will be there, downwards, 1 mark. Calculate the velocity of ball B the moment it passes ball A. So the velocity of ball B. If we go to the memo, you will see in the memo the mark indication was only on the 30, the initial velocity of ball B. I will prefer it if you maybe move this mark to the whole statement again. Therefore, I've underlined it so that you know that you award a mark for the whole statement, and then for the final answer, because the question was velocity, then you will see that the answer also must have an indication of the direction. So it is 1 mark for the answer and the direction, for the magnitude of the velocity and the direction. So 3 marks. Again, maybe a lot of work for 3 marks, but that is how it is done in the memo. Question 3.2, 3.3, calculate the distance between ball A and B 2,5 seconds after it was projected. Right, so 2,5 seconds after it was projected. Now, what the learner is supposed to do is to firstly, for ball A, calculate the distance the ball traveled downwards in 2.5 seconds. And that is the first part here, taken upwards as positive. Then his answer will be negative. Right, substituting into this formula, 1 mark for the formula, and substituting for ball A, the initial velocity as negative 12, and also then the gravitational acceleration as negative 9.8, and the time given as 2.5. Then you will get a negative answer, but that is because the ball is moving downwards. But the important thing is now that the learner must realize that the height is important. So he must deduct that 60.625 from the total height given in the question. And the total height given in the question was 80 meters. So if it moved down 60.625 meters, then at that stage the height here will be 19.375. Right. So that is then 2 marks for calculating this displacement downwards, and also the interpretation of that the height is now 19.375. Then the learner must calculate how far does the ball move upwards in that 2.5 seconds. Right, the initial velocity is 30. Initial velocity is 30 times the time times minus 9.8 times 2.5 squared. Now you must realize that the direction of the initial velocity is upwards, but gravity is downwards, so those two values must have opposite direction. And here we don't award a mark for the formula, but we award also 2 marks, but now it is for the substitution. So there's 2 marks on each equation, but the second equation, it's only for the substitutions, the 2 marks. And now the learner must realize he must get the difference between this height of 44.7375 and the height here of 19.375. So you must deduct that from each other to get at the end the final distance between the 2 balls. You will see that again, if we apply our principle that, say for instance, the learner has calculated the height of ball A wrong, but he has done this calculation by subtracting that height from the height, say, of ball B, then he will still get a mark for that substitution. So if you use that value here and subtract it from 44.375, then you will get a mark for the substitution, and then the answer, you will forfeit the mark on the answer. Right, so we benefit the learner in that way. That is on question 3.3, 6 marks. So it's 2 marks for each of the equations, and then the last 2 marks is for calculating the final distance. Right, then the graph. There must also always be a graph at vertical projectile motion, and you will see I ask the graph for both ball A and ball B. So for ball A, it's still up till the ball reaches the ground level, right? And for ball B, I want the graph until it passes ball A, right? And the question asks, use ground as 0 position and clearly indicate the time at which the balls pass each other. Right, looking at the memo. Firstly, there is 1 mark allocated for drawing the graph for ball A correctly. Ball A, if upwards is positive, ball A is moving downwards, so it will have a negative gradient and increasing negative gradient till it reaches the ground. So 1 mark for the graph of A. And then ball B is moving upwards, so it is a positive gradient, but the gradient is getting less and less because the velocity is getting less. So again, for ball B, 1 mark for indicating the graph of ball B. And then last mark is for the intersection of the two balls at time t, and time t is 2,135 seconds. 3 marks then for the graph. If you go to the rubric, you will see the rubric indicates 1 mark for the shape of ball A, the shape of the graph of ball B, and then the indication of that time of 3,135 seconds at the time of the intersection of the two balls moving past each other. And then if the ground was not used as a 0 position and everything else is correct, he will forfeit 1 mark for the fact that he hasn't used the correct reference level. So 2 out of 3 then if everything else is correct. If the learner has chosen upwards as negative, then it will be a mirror image of the direction chosen as upwards positive. So here is the graph for A, the graph for B, and the intersection at this time of 2,135 seconds. Right, let's continue with question 4. A trolley of mass 5 kilogram moves at 4 meters per second. Right, the collision in this instance is now a case where a 1,5 kilogram block is dropped into the trolley, and now you must, at the end, you will have to calculate the velocity after collision. But let's look at the first question. Define in words the law of conservation of momentum, and I hope that is real easy marks for the learners, because they are supposed to know all their definitions and all their laws. The total linear momentum of a closed system remains constant. It's very important. The total linear momentum remains constant. We can put this in brackets. If the learner omits the word linear, but includes the word total, you can still give him 1 mark for the first part, and then that it remains constant for the next part. Right. Then the next question: state the condition for an elastic collision. Now we know that in any type of collision, momentum is conserved. So to distinguish elastic collision from an inelastic collision, you must refer to the kinetic energy, and the kinetic energy must remain constant in an elastic collision. Or the learner can state that the kinetic energy before the collision must equal the kinetic energy after the collision. Right, that is then the condition for elastic collision. And then the question: calculate the change in the momentum of the 5 kilogram trolley. We're only referring to the 5 kilogram trolley. If you calculate change in momentum, it can only refer to one of the objects. Right. First, you must calculate the velocity after collision of the combination of the block and the trolley. So that is the first part, and you will see in the memo. So there's the first part, by using the conservation of momentum, the equation for that, the sum of the momentum before equals the sum of the momentum after. You can also write down, M1 V1 initial, because it's plus M2 V2 initial, etc. equals, and then the rest of the terms. So that is also acceptable. It is maybe more safer to start off with this version because the chance of making mistakes is less. So I will prefer the learner to keep it simple like this. Then before collision, the only movement was the movement of the trolley, because the block is moving vertically. His horizontal velocity is 0, so you can add there plus 0, but it's only the velocity of the trolley that you must take into account. And then after collision, it's a combination of the two, so it is 6.5 kilograms, and then you must calculate the final velocity of the combination. And then you get the answer of 3.077. There's no mark at this stage on this answer, only the formula and the substitution. And for the whole substitution, 1 mark. The learner will get the mark when he substitutes it in the next calculation. And now the learner must get to the real question, because the question asks the change in momentum of the 5 kilogram block. So making use of this formula, and there's no mark allocated to this formula, only for the substitution of the values, and you have calculated the final velocity as 3.077 subtracted by the initial velocity. So therefore the change in momentum is minus 4.62, and then the learner must interpret it then as 4.62 to the left or west or opposite to the direction of motion. So you will see the question asks the change in momentum, not the magnitude of the change in momentum. So therefore the learner must indicate the direction also. So the mark allocation for the second part is 1 mark for the substitution of the values of the velocities, and then 1 mark for the magnitude of the change in momentum, and 1 mark for the direction, left or west. Right. 5 marks in total, and I hope the learners has also been able to get to the second part of the calculation. Right, that is then the question on momentum. Moving to the next question. The question may be that the learners normally struggled with, especially because maybe both of the questions was referring to an inclined plane, or the calculation on an inclined plane. Let us look at question 5 and question 5.1. It's a boy on roller skates, and he moved at a constant velocity in an easterly direction, and this is a frictionless part A-B of the track. So he carries a parcel, and then he decides, his physics, so he carries a parcel with him, and he wants to increase his velocity by throwing away the parcel away from him. Right, then the first question, in which direction must the parcel be thrown to cause a maximum increase in the velocity? Right, and there's only one direction. If he's moving forward, he must throw that parcel backwards behind him to get the effect of Newton's third law to push him forward. Right, so therefore the answer is then backwards or behind him, and then you must name and define in words the law in physics that you have applied in question 551. It is Newton's third law, and again, I hope the learners have known their laws. Newton's third law, 1 mark, and then 2 marks for when one body exerts a force on the second body will exert a force of equal magnitude. So the 1 mark there, and in opposite direction on the first body. Right, it's 2 parts referring to the force that's acting on the 2 bodies is the same in magnitude, equal in magnitude, and the second mark is then for referring to the fact that those 2 forces on the 2 objects are in different opposite directions. Right, Newton's third law. Then the question moves on to asking a calculation. Now this boy on the roller skates reached point B at 6 meters per second, and then it starts moving up the incline. Now you will see the inclined plane is a rough area, so there is friction acting on the roller skates, and then he comes to rest at a height of 4 meters above the ground. 4 meters above the ground. Right. What can we deduct from this? Firstly, that there are 2 forces acting on the boy on the roller skates when he moves upwards on the incline. It's a frictional force, and secondly the component and the parallel component of the gravity. Right. Calculate the value of the inclined plane, the value of theta of the inclined plane. Right, so what do we have? We have the velocity, the initial velocity here. We have a height of 4 meters. We have the 2 forces acting on it, and the value of the frictional force is 40 newtons. Right, and the height is 4. That is what we have more or less. So let's go and have a look at what kind of calculations can we perform here. There's always 2 possibilities here, and the first possibility is by making use of the work energy theorem. W net equals delta K, and then expanding on which forces and which work done make up the W net, and then you will see the force of gravity and the force, the frictional force causes work to be done. So you must take both into account. Firstly, the work done by the gravitational force. We are going to make use of the 4 meters here. So gravitational force is acting downwards, but the displacement is upwards. So the direction between those 2 will be 180. So let us look here. It is mg, 57 times 9.8, and it is then delta x is the distance, and then cos 180, the angle between the force and the displacement. Then the second part is the gravitational force times delta x. So now we don't know what this distance between B and x is. So this delta x now comes into play. And why do we want to calculate delta x? Because we must have seen to calculate the angle, this angle, the value of this theta, we must get more values for the sides of this triangle. So therefore, if we calculate delta x, we will be able to calculate this angle. So therefore, delta x is the unknown value, and then cos 180, because the frictional force is opposite to the direction up the incline, and then equals a change in kinetic energy. The kinetic energy at the final position x is 0, and then at the start it was 6 seconds square. So therefore you can calculate delta x as minus 30.21, And then you have the two sides that you need. You have this side as 4 meters, and then this side of delta x that you have just calculated now. So then you can use the sine of theta, and inverse of sine gives you an angle of 7,61 degrees. The mark allocation. The mark allocation, 1 mark for this formula. You will see he can either, we will give him credit if he maybe start with this interpreted form of the formula. At least he knows what he is doing, he or she is doing. So 1 mark for the formula, one of those two, and then 1 mark for the work done by the gravitational force, 1 mark for the work done by the frictional force, and 1 mark for calculating delta K, and then 1 mark for substituting the values to calculate the angle, and then 1 mark for the angle. So in total 6 marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 marks for 513. Right, that is by means of W net equals delta K. The learner could have also make use of this formula for the work done by the non-conservative force. And the non-conservative force of these two forces are the frictional force. The conservative force is the force of gravity. So the non-conservative force is the frictional force, 40 times delta x, and there you will see the delta x come into play, and we need this value. So, and the cos 180 equals, and then the change in the potential energy, gravitational potential energy. The final height was 4, initial was 0, so the change in potential energy, and then the change in kinetic energy. You will get also then to the answer of minus 30,21, and then you use that value to calculate the angle. So again, the mark allocation is basically the same, 1 for the formula and 1 for each component calculated, 1 for substituting the values to calculate theta, and then 1 for the final answer. 6 marks. Right, that is 513. Maybe the learners could have find it difficult because it's on an incline, but I think it is a basic, straightforward question on work done on an incline. Then, question 5.2. A remote control car is driven up an incline, and the mass of the car is 4 kilograms, and it experiences an upward force due to the engine of this remote controlled car of 80 newtons. It's quite a big force. And then the frictional force is 15 newtons, so frictional force 15 newtons downwards, and then also the component of the gravity will also be working against the motion of the car, and the initial velocity is given as 3 meters per second. Then the question states, use energy principles. Use energy principles. So the learner must start off with an equation applying an energy principle. So that's important. To calculate the speed of the car after he has traveled 5 meters up the inclined plane. So 5 meters, reaching 5 meters, you must calculate the speed of the car after 5 meters. Right, again, the options for the learners is basically two options. Again, making use of W net equals delta K. And now we will see there are 3 forces acting on the car. The applied force, the gravitational force, and the force of gravity, the work done by the force of the frictional force. Again, 1 mark for one of the 2 equations, and then there's an errata in this question, so please just remove that 4. The answer is correct, but some way, I don't know where this 4 has crept in, but please remove that 4 in both options. So then the work done by the applied force is 80 times 5 cos 0, because it's working in the same direction. And then the gravitational force is the component parallel to the inclined plane of the gravitational force. It's 4 times the mass times 9,8 times sine 30. Then 1 mark, you will see there's 1 mark for calculating this component of the gravitational force. And then 1 mark for the times 5, because the distance traveled is 5 meters, and then cos 180. So 1 mark for the second part of this calculation, and then 1 mark for calculating the work done by the frictional force, 15 times 5 times cos 180. And then another mark for calculating the change in the kinetic energy. The final velocity is the velocity that we want to calculate. The initial velocity is given as 3, so 1 mark for calculating delta k, and then you will arrive at the answer of 11,07 meters per second. Right, the second option, again making use of the formula for calculating the work done by the non-conservative force, and in this case it's non-conservative forces, because both the applied force and the frictional force is both non-conservative forces. So therefore the learner must calculate this 2 components of the work done by the applied force and the work done by the frictional force, and then it is equal to the change in the potential energy. And again you will see that's 1 mark for calculating at the final energy at the top of the 5 meters, and minus the initial potential energy, and then plus the change in the kinetic energy, that the same that you have done in option 1. So 1 mark for the formula, and then 1 mark for each component, and 1 mark for the answer. It is 7 marks. So for substitutions, there are 5 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marks for substitutions, and 1 mark for the equation, and then 1 mark for the final answer. Right. The comment of one of the learners that I've get was the paper was okay, but he struggled a little bit with question 5.1.3 and 5.2. I don't think that was the general feeling on question 5. Right, that is question 5 now, and we are going to move on. We are going to move on to question 6. And that's the question on the Doppler effect. The first question is on the question on redshift. Light emitted from distant stars demonstrates the phenomenon known as redshift. Explain how the phenomenon known as redshift can be used to explain an expanding universe. So firstly, the learner must indicate what that redshift means, stating that redshift means that there is a shift towards the lower frequency of the spectrum. Right. State what is a redshift? A shift towards the lower frequency of the spectrum. And then he must interpret that, and that means that the source, if the frequencies move to lower values, then it means that the source is moving away from the observer, and the source is a star, star emitting the light. So therefore, second mark for the second part, saying that means, because there's a shift to lower frequencies, that means that the star, the source, is moving away from the observer, and then that explains now the theory of an expanding universe. Right, 2 marks for that one. Then question 6.2, moving back to the Earth, a question on Doppler and using a different example, and that is now of a submarine making use of the Doppler effect to detect the speed of a ship. Now, a submarine at rest and just below the surface of the water detects the frequency of a moving ship as 437 Hertz. And important here, it is 0.985 times the actual frequency of the sound emitted by the ship. So what does that mean? That means that if listener is smaller than if source. That is the implication of that. It is 0.985 times the actual frequency. So it is smaller than the actual frequency. It is smaller than the frequency of the source. Right, and then the speed of sound in water is 1470 meters per second. Now, first question, is the ship moving away or towards the submarine? Give a reason for your answer. Right, the ship is moving away from the submarine. Why? The reason? Because there's the frequency of the detected frequency, that the frequency of the listener, you can state it like that, is smaller than the frequency of the source. And in the memo, it's stated in the following way: it's away from the submarine because the detected or observed frequency is lower than the actual frequency. 2 marks for that. Then the Doppler calculation. Calculate the speed of the ship. Right, there's 2 options. The learner must first state a correct formula. This is the 2 formulas accepted. This is the preferred one as indicated on the data sheet. But if the learner has started off with a derived formula, then this is the only accepted derived formula. So again, you must stress it to your learners that it is safe to start off with the initial formula indicated on the data sheet. And then the learner can realize that if listener to F source is given by that value of 0.985. So he can change the subject of his formula like this: FL over Fs equals, and then he substitute that value of 0.985, and then also the speed of sound in water and 147 plus Fs. So you will see the mark allocation: 1 for the initial velocity, the initial equation, 1 for substituting this value of 0.985, and 2 marks for this substitution. That is very maybe giving marks, easy marks for the learner. But anyway, that's how we have allocated the marks, and then 1 mark for the answer. Option 2. Option 2, the learner can first calculate the frequency of the source. He knows that the frequency of the listener is 0.985 times the frequency of the source. The frequency of the listener, or the detected frequency or the observed frequency, is 437, and that is a given value in the question. So therefore he can calculate the frequency of the source as 443,655. Unfortunately, in the memo, we don't give any marks to the calculation of F source. We only give a mark for that calculation when the learner substitute the value into the Doppler equation. That is maybe to stay constant with the mark allocation in option 1. To stay constant with that, he gets a mark when he substitute that value of 437 in here, and then again 2 marks for the substitution on the right-hand side. Actually, I would prefer that this 1 mark is for substituting this frequency of the source. Sorry, I've wrong. 1 mark is here. Here is this is the calculated value. So it's 1 mark allocated here. So 1 mark, that 1 mark is specifically for the calculation of the frequency of the source. But anyway, there's 1 mark for substituting the frequency of the listener, 1 mark for substituting this 1470 plus VS, and then 1 mark for the answer. So again, we stay constant on mark allocation. 1 mark for the formula, 3 marks for substitutions, and 1 mark for the final answer. Right. That's a calculation of the Doppler effect. And then 6.2.2 ask, name 2 applications of the Doppler effect in medical science. And the 2 possible uses, applications, is to measure the velocity of blood flowing through vessels. If the learner writes something about the detection of the monitoring or detection of blood flow in blood vessels, maybe not referring to calculating the velocity of the blood flowing through the vessels, you can also give the mark. And then to scan a fetus, a second mark. So this is the 2 possibilities in medical science for the Doppler effect, using the Doppler effect. Right, that is then question 6. Moving to question 7. Question on electrostatics and Coulomb's law and electric field strength. Right, let's read. The diagram below shows 2 identical insulated metal spheres, P and Q, and each carrying the same charge, 20 centimeters apart. Define Coulomb's law. Right, define Coulomb's law. The 2 marks allocated is actually for the part that the electrostatic force is directly proportional to the product of the magnitude of the charges, and then the second mark for inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So 2 marks for that 2 parts of Coulomb's law. And then the next question is draw the electric field pattern due to the 2 spheres P and Q. And here are your correct diagram. You will see the mark allocation is as follows. The direction of the electric field lines away from the charges, point charges, away from the point charges, and then the correct shape, the shape as indicated here. And then the third mark is actually for the neatness. Example, the field lines not crossing, it's not drawn into the sphere, or not starting a few millimeters from the sphere or the point charge. And actually, if I look at the question, it is 2 spheres, yes. So the third mark is for neatness. 1 for direction, 1 I can say like for the shape maybe, so we can use that word, and then 1 mark for the correctness, for instance, not field lines not crossing and starting exactly on the sphere. 3 marks for this diagram. Then moving on to question 7.3, Calculate the magnitude of the electrostatic force between spheres P and Q. Right. Making use of Coulomb's law. 1 mark for the formula. 1 mark for substituting this 6 times 6 times 10 to the power minus 9 for both spheres. 1 mark for substituting the value of the distance correctly, 0.2 meters squared, and 1 mark for the final answer. I don't think that the learners will have problems with this one. I think easy 4 marks for them. And then moving to the last question, question 7. A third sphere, R, and the sphere R has a charge of -2 nanocoulomb, is now placed in a position relative to the other spheres and a chosen point X as indicated in the diagram below. So sphere R is added here, 20 centimeters from sphere Q and 10 centimeters from a point X indicated here. Now the question is then, calculate the net electric field at point X due to spheres P, Q and R. So if we look at the electric field lines acting through point X, sphere P cause field lines to the right working through this point X. Sphere Q also, the field lines is working to the right through this point X. And then and that is because they are both positive, and then because sphere R is negative, the field lines work to the left through point X. Why must you know that? Because you must know, if you calculate the electric field for each sphere at point X, you must know what to do with those 3 values. What must you add and what must you subtract? Right, looking at the memo, the learner can do this separately for sure. They can calculate each electric field caused to P, Q and R separately. You will see there's only 1 mark on the formula, so only once on the formula KQP divided by R squared, 1 mark for that. And then there's 1 mark for each calculation. So 1 mark for the electric field caused by the 6 nanocoulomb charge, 1 mark for the second 6 nanocoulomb charge, and then for the negative charge it is also 1 mark. Remember, you don't indicate the negative here. It's not necessary. The direction is decided by your vector diagram. This vector diagram decides what is positive and negative, so therefore it's important. This must be, you must subtract the value of this electric field caused by the 2 nanocoulomb sphere, and then the learner must interpret the electric field strength. It is negative 9.84, so therefore he must state it is 9.84 to the left. He can maybe use the word west, I think also can be accepted. So in total 6 marks for this question, 1 mark for a formula, 3 marks for substitutions, 1 mark for the magnitude of the final answer, and 1 mark for direction. And again, I will agree with you that it's a lot of calculations for maybe in total 3 marks. But yes, that is the way the marks are allocated. So the learner has to do a lot of calculations for 1 mark to get to 6 marks. That is a question then on electrostatics. I'll think we are going to take just a short break now. We'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll start off with question 8.